Welcome to Comics League Live. I'm Jared. I'm here with Kris Faction. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, man. Just doing the thing.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. So normally the way I start these is I always ask a very simple question to all my first-time guests. So what got you into comics?
My mom's grocery shopping.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
You know, like back in the day, she'd go grocery shopping, and that was when comics were, on the magazine racks, and I would just get left there while she did her shopping, and I'd read everything that I could.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, my exposure to that, granted, it was like early 2000s for me. So it was like the Archies that they always had those little digests with trades. So I was like, okay, so they're there, and she was like, okay, so here, shut up. I'm like, and that's pretty much that was kind of my thing. But yeah, that's kind of I keep forgetting how like there used to be those little racks at like the most unexpected places where you could buy comics.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was great. Growing up, there was there was comics everywhere. You could find them in the gas station, grocery store, like everywhere, and comic shops really weren't too big of a thing back then, in like the late 80s and then entering into the 90s, comic shops started to really kind of pop up. But comics stayed on the magazine racks throughout the 90s. You think about like some of the great runs that were going on in the 90s. They were trying to maximize exposure to get those sales, and that was
in terms of female characters. They were definitely maximizing exposure. Have you seen Witchblade? Have you seen Witchblade?
Oh yeah. Well, and everybody remembers that Psylocke pinup.
Yeah, or like the X-Men having a beach party. Yeah, there was that one Jim Lee image. I'm like, yeah, you guys could not make it any more obvious, guys.
Right. And here I am, like, 14, 15-year-old boy, like, oh man, I want that one.
It works. So yeah. I'm not gonna tell you it doesn't work.
Right.
But so Marvel or DC?
Man, that's actually a pretty hard question because I was such a big fan of X-Men in the 90s.
There you go.
But I was a really big Batman fan in the 90s as well, and so it's kind of hard for me to say Marvel or DC. I'll say I read DC longer when I was reading mainstream comics. I kept up with DC longer than I did Marvel.
Yeah, the reason why I was more on the DC side is because growing up, I was always more of a fan of like Greek myth and all that, and like the whole gods amongst men. And DC was very obviously in that direction more than Marvel. I still like Marvel because you can't get any more badass than a character like Captain America or the Punisher, unless it's written by modern Marvel, in which case it's like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I swear that Punisher run they did where they changed his logo and basically killed him. I'm like, the hell is this?
No thanks.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick to reading reading Mike Baron Punisher. That's all I need.
Yeah, there you go. That's literally all you need.
That's pretty much all it needs. Master Sergeant says DC for Batman, Marvel for G.I. Joe. That was my base throughout the 80s. I'll tell you, that G.I. Joe run by Skybound is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
The Duke book, because it's like they put it all with the Transformers. So I'm like, and they're actually telling stories that fit with the characters, as opposed to like having like Superman attend a climate change rally, even though there's like 10 superheroes that could fix the climate like that. So it doesn't really work. I'm like, I get what you're going for, but it doesn't work.
Well, that's the thing about like, we grew up with all these iconic characters.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden their personalities changed. And it was like, wait a minute, this isn't Superman. This isn't Batman.
No.
When Kevin Conroy came out about the jab or whatever, and I was sitting there thinking, I was like, Batman would have thought of a cure. He wouldn't have told anybody to take the government prescribed cure. He would have been so suspicious of that.
The other thing is, like, Batman would have already, even before COVID hit, had a cure for it. He's like, in the off chance that there's a global pandemic.
Yeah, right, exactly. He would have known about the research labs already. He would have been like, oh, well, if they're doing that.
Or he would have flown the Batwing over the entire world and just crop dusted everyone.
Yeah.
Right? Because
there's your cure.
The minute you have someone that has contingency plans to kill the Justice League, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's why I get what they're doing, because to a certain degree, if you're writing these characters, a little bit of like your personal stuff is gonna seep into the characters. That's just natural stuff. But you have to keep it so it's not like really tone deaf, or like it doesn't really add up. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah. No. Well, you know, I mean, like I said, these characters have personalities.
Yeah.
You know, and we're used to seeing them in the same way. It would be like if you walked into your house as, you know, as a teenager, and all of a sudden your mom was acting like the lady down the road. You'd be like, wait a minute.
Did I walk in the wrong house?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. There is one character that all my viewers know that I can't stand, that has never been written around, and that's Lois Lane. She is my least favorite DC character of all time. I think Superman is better off with Wonder Woman. That's just me. To be clear, I like the movie Lois. I like the Lois in other mediums other than comics, because when they write her, a good example of this, they did a storyline where like her son was threatened, so somehow she could use one of Batman's armored suits.
Yeah, no thanks.
I'm like, Wonder Woman, I get, but why would Batman teach Lois how to use one of his suits?
Yeah.
Mary Sue anyone?
Oh, right.
Ray. It's just, you became Ray Lane. Oh my gosh, I have to start that.
There you go. Ray Lane. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
Exactly. And again, going off of like the X-Men of the 90s, you kind of had this whole little thing on the internet about the X-Men 97 trailer, which it looks okay. My problem is that, yes, they did like mess with Rogue's design. So
they deflated some of the X-Men.
Yeah, they did. And and to a certain degree, I did a show with a buddy of mine where we said that, yeah, of course, the X-Men's always been political to a degree. It's just the way they do it. The way they used to do it, at least from what I saw, is that they made it so anyone that's ever been othered in any way can identify with the X-Men.
Yes. I mean, Stan Lee,
yeah,
you know, said that explicitly. You know, really, like, the whole idea of them being a political type commentary, or really didn't really come in until around Chris Claremont. I mean, you go back to the OG X-Men in the 60s, it was just like team of good guys fighting evil, you know. Like Magneto didn't have all the crazy backstory and all that. He was just, I'm evil, metal, take them and hurt them, you know, like.
Well, wasn't it because the reason why Stan Lee created the mutants is because he got tired of explaining origin stories for characters?
Yes. Yep.
He was like, I'm done with this. Just you do it.
Yeah. Which is, you know, I mean, I get it. Whenever you have a character factory like Marvel was at the time, you know, if you have to tell origin stories for everybody, you're just gonna be telling origin stories for a decade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I understand that. It's the thing is, I wish that writers were skilled enough to be able to do it without pissing people off, because it's possible. Claremont did it.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, and that's, I mean, that's the thing is comics. The lacking started in the writing, and then it started to trickle into the art and everything else. And but you know, at its core, like if you can't tell a good story, then why draw it good?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm already lazy enough with the words. I might as well just paint by numbers on that.
Exactly.
But so who was your favorite superhero growing up?
Probably Batman.
Of course.
I mean, you know, he's I think a lot of young boys relate to Batman because he doesn't have powers.
He's a career option.
Right. You look at him and you go, I could actually do that.
Yeah,
and,
all I need is like a lot of money. I saw this really funny thing where it's like a kid holding a pistol and he goes, when you say you want to be Batman when you grow up, but you know what must be done.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a really awkward conversation with your parents.
Right. Sorry, mom and dad. Yeah. I have to be Batman.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about that is shown in like Batman sales because he basically holds up all of DC on his shoulders.
Oh yeah,
like they publish like 10,000 Batman books a month, and as an avid Batman reader, I'm like, DC, my wallet can't take this.
I
need to buy other books.
That was one of the big reasons why I started to leave mainstream comics behind. Was like it started with me in the late 90s with the X-Men.
Yeah.
There were so many X titles, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna follow Uncanny. And even then, like there would be so many references, check out this in X-Force, check out this in Excalibur. And you're just like, oh man. And then it just kept piling on and piling on throughout the 2000s. And I mean, once the Bat family was like established, it's like you've got Bat everything. I'm surprised there's, not like, Bat Aquaman and Bat Superman at this point.
They did a storyline where like alternate versions of Batman invade from other universes.
Yeah,
all like Batman versions of the Justice League.
And and I was like, man, I just, so I shrunk it down to just Detective Comics. I was like, okay, I can read Detective and I can be fine. And then, as the story writing got worse and worse, I was like, okay, I'm
with done. Me, the red flag it was actually a Marvel thing, but DC does this too. They did this event called King in Black. It was supposed to be a Venom event, just with Venom. Every single Marvel book tied into this event. And the problem with the way both companies do tie-ins, the most innocuous looking tie-ins will have key plot points for the main story. So it's not like you can buy the main book.
See, and that's where, like, if you go back to Age of Apocalypse in the 90s, there were a lot of tie-in books. There was a really cool Fantastic Four tie-in that I loved. But you didn't have to read the tie-ins because they didn't have main plot. It was just a cool little extra Easter egg. What's Spider-Man doing during the Age of Apocalypse? What's Fantastic Four, the Punisher, or whatever? And if you got the books, you got them, and if you didn't, you didn't. But Age of Apocalypse was, it was going on. It was self-contained, and then when it was over. Sure, there's ramifications and whatnot, but it just, continued on. And it wasn't until really, I would say right around Avengers Disassembled, they were like, we have to have these major, huge, giant crossover things every single year. Like as soon as one ends, another one begins.
They're doing that right now too. It's like, and here's the problem. So DC did this event this year called Dawn of DC. It was supposed to revitalize the characters and get better creative teams. It was working. Then they stopped the line in the middle of great stories to do a stupid event, and it, like, the entire momentum stopped. And I'm like, to that point, I'm like, it's like I was reading an exciting Green Lantern story. I turned to the page and said it will be concluded in a month after Night Terrors, and I'm like, I have to wait a month to figure out what happens 5 minutes from now. Are you kidding me?
Well, and even look on the Marvel side, where like, man, where it started getting really crazy was when you had Civil War and Annihilation going on at the same time.
Two events at the exact same time.
Yeah, and they're these massive, they're huge events that have ramifications through almost every single book in any Marvel franchise. And you're like, I can't keep up with this. Personally, I liked Annihilation better than Civil War, but they were both pretty good.
To a degree, yeah. I personally preferred Civil War because one of the things I always like is when like pop culture handles that whole freedom versus security like debate. And Civil War did that. The movie did this really well. I like the comic plot more than the movie plot, but I still enjoy what the movie did. I get why they had to change that type of stuff, but it's like with that. But the thing is, to that point, it's like I once went into a Barnes and Noble, and an entire shelf was just tie-in trades, and I'm like,
yeah,
what the hell is going on with this event?
Yeah, you're like, wait, I can't afford this.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I spend $300 a month on comic books, not $3,000.
Right?
I'm like, what the hell is this? But But yeah, and I do think that's one of the things, in addition to bad writing, that's turning a lot of people off to like the mainstream books, because they're like, I don't want to have to read 20,000 books. Plus, if I were to come to you and say, Kris, I want to start Batman. Let's say I never read a comic book. I want to read Batman. Okay, so now you have to read like thousands and thousands of issues in the back in order to understand this.
Exactly, and even then, you probably like there is no decent starting point, because I mean, you have Batman has been through so many different iterations, and they've changed the world so much, and it's like, well, like you can't start with, back in the 40s, I mean, you could, but you're going to be really confused, by the time you get up to the 90s,
yes,
or whatever. And yeah, it's so convoluted. It's like there is no real canon anymore.
Nope.
You're just.
And I always tell people, because I always see people say this is the definitive version of the character, and I'm like, there is no definitive version of the character. The very fact that DC keeps rebooting tells you there's no definitive version of the character.
Right. Yeah.
There's the version you like more, and hey, that's your right. You can like a certain version of the character. I like all Zack Snyder's characters, but but I'm not going to say they're the definitive versions of these characters.
Right. Yeah, it really is, like whatever your personal preference is. Like, like I just said, Mike Barron's Punisher. Like, to me, that's the Punisher.
Him, Carl Potts, Jim Lee, anyone in that era of the Punisher was like, yeah, that is the Punisher right there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like the image of Punisher fighting Wolverine in the jungle. I'm like, yes, this is what comics should be. There you go.
Beautiful.
There you go. So Atchison says that the never-ending continuity, the constant relaunches, the reboots are some of the many factors that turn me away from the big two. Yeah, and here's the thing. DC had a great opportunity. In 2011, they completely rebooted and did the new 52. Problem with that, it wasn't a complete reboot because all of Batman and Green Lantern's lore carried over.
Yep.
Like somehow everything that happened to Batman happened in 5 years. What the heck is going? It's like if everything happened if like Nightfall happened and like Final Crisis, him going back in time and coming back in time happened in 5 years, I would give up being Batman.
Yeah, right. Like you would, I mean, it's already kind of, everybody already thinks Batman's psyche is pretty well hammered. Like if it all happened in 5 years, yeah, he would just be shattered. Honestly, when it came to New 52, I stuck to Jonah Hex because it was the least convoluted.
There you go. Oh yeah, that's true. It took place like even before all this BS.
Right, exactly. Like, okay.
Yeah, and with me, it was more like, at least like Superman, Wonder Woman, and a few of the other characters, you could show up and be like, okay, so pretend we never published a book. Pick these up, you're good. So that's where I really started. I learned about Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, and all that stuff. But I had the idea. Here's what DC should do: just and publish this, reboot every 5 years.
I could see that happening. I mean, like if the editors had any intelligence, and narrow it down to just your core titles, and then have one event every. Like I cannot stand the event after event after event. I don't think you should have a major event more than every 5 years.
What you could do is do like once a year to do like a small crossover event where, like, let's say Brainiac invades and then the Justice
Sure.
League has to come together. There you go. It's like even the first book of Justice League could be the main events, the formation of the Justice League, and you're good to go. But it's like when you have like that, and then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here.
Well, and so much of it, doesn't make sense. Like like take Wolverine, for example.
Yeah.
How many books is Wolverine in?
My God.
Where does he find the time?
They did a story of that. It was like a 9-panel grid where it was like Wolverine's day on a daily basis. One panel is on the Avengers, one panel is on the Fantastic Four, one panel is on the X-Men, one panel is in with like Alpha Flight. It's like, it was like ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like, my goodness, man. This, like, what he already is cursed with long life, and then you make him jump through all these hoops on all these different teams, and then his own side story, right?
Yeah, well, that's where the healing factor comes in. That's where the healing factor. Yeah, and it's not like it's not like it's an unavoidable like situation they're in, and I get what they're going for with like okay, so people buy these big massive Michael Bay movie events, so we have to do a lot of those, and I'm like, arguably you would turn less people off if you did like even like once every 6 months, do like a small event with like, let's say, just the Justice League characters or just the Avengers, and then like once a year you can do like the massive line-wide event where everyone's involved.
When it comes to film, I think that the TV medium is better for a lot of comic book characters, because you get your classic villain of the week, and then you can do a movie for those team events, or something big, I mean, imagine if you had, a good Batman series, Superman and Wonder Woman, TV shows, 13 episodes a year or something like that. And then about every 3 years or so, you do a big movie, and then you go back to the TV shows. Like, I think people
remember the MCU used to be the event films. Everyone used to be like, it used to be an event to go see a Marvel movie. Now it's like, I have to go see another Marvel movie because if I want to understand Secret Wars, I have to see like 8,000 projects before.
Yeah.
Speaking of tie-ins, as a matter of fact, you know what? It's working out for Marvel as well as it is for the comics.
Yep. Pretty much.
It really, really, really kills me because I love these characters and I want to see them thrive, but to see them mismanaged like this, it's a little heartbreaking.
Oh, I know. It really is.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to make my own.
Yep. And actually, speaking of that, I will share screen and we can do that. All right. So tell me about Nano 13.
Nano 13 is essentially, the story is 3,000 years ago, aliens invaded Earth and enslaved mankind. Now a group of former slaves have somehow gotten nanotech powers, and they are taking the fight to the alien Zerus to free their planet.
I like that. And first off, this looks like a 90s era. A lot of it was kind of funny. A lot of indie books I cover, they look very 90s in the best way possible, like massive guns, like bombastic action. And I'm like, that's what we need. That is 100% what we need.
Absolutely. And that was, my colorist, Jay Brown, who, a lot of people know him from G.I. Joe, gave me one of the best compliments by saying, I love this book because of all the action.
Yeah.
When the guy from G.I. Joe says, I love it because of the action, you're going in the right direction.
Well, dude, it's on that. He's probably saying that because you get like weeks of X-Men books where it's just them eating lunch.
Yeah.
I'm like, punch something. Even punch each other. I'll take that.
Right? Like, come on. Yeah. And that's and Mark Polton is my editor, and he's a high action guy, and he kept me on my toes. Like he'd be like, there's a little bit of a lull here. You need to ramp it up. Oh yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah, and it looks fantastic. And I see. I like a lot of these like semi-futuristic, like tactical military-esque comic books, and that's all honestly a niche that I think isn't being serviced. It used to be by Punisher until Marvel like. Honestly, I'm going to be very crude. Chopped his balls off because it's like because here's why. Because for some reason these companies don't like any characters that use guns, even though those characters sell.
Right. Well, and one, I was in the Army, so like that's
thank you for your service, dude.
Thank you. So there's definitely like elements of that I brought into the story. And two, me with sci-fi, I like gritty, worn sci-fi, and I like guns that shoot bullets, not lasers.
Yeah.
I think that it's so much better. I think that it looks better. I think that it adds to the story more, it just because it just gives this like grounded, like if I get shot by a laser, okay, like I got this burn or what. I get shot by a bullet, it's meat, and
it has more of a pun intended impact,
right?
Like when like it's because here's the thing, it's like if I'm watching like Terminator and like the beginning of Terminator when they show the lasers, and I'm like, okay, that's cool, but it's like there's something about the sound of a gun going off in an action movie, like an actual firearm, that it feels like intense.
Yeah. And that's, I really wanted to make sure to have that, that element in there because, yeah, man, even the aliens don't really fire lasers. They, it's guns all around.
Yeah, there you go. And again, I'm like, that's what this is messing me because like even the new Punisher shoots like I think it's like plasma guns or like something like that. It's like we're going back to when they were doing Batman the animated series and they wouldn't let them use actual guns. That's why all the cops have like pretty much laser pistols. And I'm like, it's like that, except they're doing it because guns are bad, even though my favorite is when you have like actors going, I don't like guns, but I'm going to star in a movie like The Bourne, where they're basically my character is known for using guns.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing?
Well, it's like one, I have a military background. Two, I'm from Texas. Like guns are a part of I have two sitting right here. Like just nonchalant, like, oh yeah, it's just an everyday part of my life. I don't think anything of it. As far as, most I carry, most of my friends carry, it's like, do you have your wallet? Yeah. It's so normalized in my neck of the woods. And it should be normalized in action stories.
In action movies. I'm like, yeah, what are you guys doing if like your characters that use guns are all of a sudden that are known for using firearms like the Punisher are not doing that? I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
My favorite is when I actually had someone, because I was a big fan of Ben Affleck's Batman. Someone tried to tell me I don't like Ben Affleck's Batman because he uses guns. I prefer Michael Keaton, and I'm like, his Batmobile had machine guns mounted to it.
Yeah, right.
his Batwing had like a minigun on it. What are you talking about that? That's my favorite.
I like that. I don't like Batman that uses guns, but him having rockets that launch out of his jet is okay.
Him dropping a bomb down someone's pants is okay. I'm like, and smiling. First off, he's like,
he literally uses the Keaton Batman uses machine guns to open a door.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? He doesn't use. Well, first off, that's my other thing. It's like I've said that like. See, Batman does use guns because the Batmobile and the Batwing count all the time. He uses them, and I'm like, and you can't tell me him ramming someone with the Batmobile or shooting razor sharp batarangs at them doesn't kill them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, have you seen how deep they go in someone's arm? I guarantee you that their artery is severed at that point.
Right.
I'm like, you're not. I get what you're trying to do, but you're not exactly helping. Affleck is the best Batman, hands down. I agree.
I do like the. I like Batfleck a lot. He nailed Batman.
He had both of them. He was able to do both Bruce and Batman.
And that's usually the hardest thing to do. Like I thought that Keaton was an amazing Batman, but a very poor Bruce Wayne.
Thank you.
You know, and yeah, you know, I mean, most of the time it's one or the other. And but Ben Affleck, like he nailed them both. It was great.
It's just that one shot when he's looking at his like suit, and then they show his face, and you can just see the darkness in his face, and that's Bruce Wayne. That is 100% Bruce Wayne in the Batcave.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And then you had the warehouse fight where he's like it basically turns into the Arkham games where he's like fighting 10 guys around him, and I'm like, yeah, there you go. This is dope. This is dope.
Absolutely.
But again, it's that because they're like, I don't like Batfleck because he has guns strapped to his car, and I'm like, every Batman has killed and used guns at some point.
Oh yeah.
Everyone has killed with guns as well. So there's a scene in The Dark Knight when Bale is driving the Batmobile at a truck. He rams the truck, but the front the cab gets like knocked up and it crushes into the ceiling. I'm like, that dude's dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's even a drop on my channel. But whenever someone says Batman doesn't kill, and I'm like, this one does. the one that tells you he doesn't does.
Yeah. The only Batman that doesn't kill is Adam West.
I thought he did once.
Maybe he did, but I don't think so. Do
you know why I think that is? I think it's because like the people making these movies and the general audience are not going to believe that there's a dude that dresses up like a bat, goes into combat, and doesn't kill someone at least once.
Exactly. Well, and like, look at Batman. You know, like even if it was an accident, he's killing people.
Yeah, it's like even in the newer ones with Pattinson, when he's like punching some dude's head into the ground, like that dude is either a vegetable or he is dead.
Exactly. Like Batman may not kill you, but you're gonna be in a coma until you're 70.
He'll maim you, but he won't kill you. It's like my favorite in Batman Begins, where he goes, "I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you."
Yeah.
I'm like, what writing is that?
Well, you know, actually, my brother and I were talking about this morning. They did that in the Justice League cartoon with Superman and Darkseid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and Darkseid, best line ever. Not even a line. Word, loser. And then he blows up.
Yeah. On the Justice League cartoon, I always use that one because there are people that are like upset saying, why is Superman fighting Zod in the middle of a city and causing all this destruction in Man of Steel? And I go, the scene that you guys hold up in the Justice League where Superman gives the whole "I live in a world of cardboard" speech, he punches Darkseid through 3 buildings where there are people below him.
Yeah.
I mean, just say you don't like Zack Snyder and then we can just move on. That's fine. I can take that. But telling me that didn't happen in those shows is not going to work with me.
Well, you know, I mean, that's the thing is like, you just got to realize that in a world where superheroes exist, collateral damage also exists.
It's going to happen. It's going to, in the Avengers, they dealt with this in Avengers Civil War. That's what the whole point of the movie was.
Right.
But it's astounding. But so so what can we expect from this? Actually, you know what? I actually have the trailer all pulled up, so let's go ahead and do the trailer.
Nice.
So let me just go ahead and do that. Let me pull it up. I had to pull it up on another screen. Where is it? Did I have it on here? Technical difficulties, folks. Let me try this. Actually, I got it. Hang on. Share. Here we go. All right, so let's do this. All right. Is the audio playing?
Yep.
Okay, good. That is dope. That is cool. Yeah, I love that. So, basically, what it is these former slaves fighting against their masters.
Yeah, pretty much. So there's 13 of them, Nano 13.
Okay.
You're only going to see 11 in this book, and the story really only focuses on the main team of 4.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of see the others in the background, and the 2 that are missing are alluded to, and we'll get to that later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've only had their powers for a little while, just a matter of weeks. And so they're kind of trying to understand them. They know that, okay, now I have the abilities to take on these alien overlords and kick them off our planet. But not only are they learning, it also kind of makes them a little arrogant, and so we'll deal with a lot of things there, and then you'll see they live in a civilization of free people that live in hiding. Excuse me.
Okay.
And since they spent their lives as slaves, it's also kind of the difficulty of living with people and having a modicum of freedom that they're not used to. Although when the story starts, they've been free for about 2.5 years. Okay. So they've already been operating as freedom fighters. It's just now they have powers, and don't expect a linear backstory on how they get their powers.
Okay.
You're gonna have to puzzle that together over.
I like that. That's
over
good.
the course of a few issues.
That's good. So. I think it's a good idea to go with a small group first in the first issue to introduce the world, because it can get really overwhelming, having 11 people, or even having 20 people you have to cover. That's why I got burned out of Game of Thrones, because I'm there's way too many people I have to keep track of.
Right. Yeah, that's and this title is mostly going to focus on those 4. After issue 3, I plan on breaking off into 3 more titles. Because like you said, having all these characters, you can't just have one linear story that has all these characters. It's too much going on. And, I definitely want to do it in a way where if you're I like this world or whatever, but, I don't really care about this group over here, that you'll be able to read, each book and it be its own thing that you can, just enjoy.
That works. And again, everything is designed well. The other thing I really like is going to this cover is that, as opposed to having everyone use guns, you have someone with a sword here, so it's a little more variety. Because that's the other thing is if everyone is a big gun wielding badass, it loses a little bit on the possible variety, and honestly, swords also work in this universe from what I see.
Right. Yeah. So that character's name is Akari, and she's a pretty interesting character because in this world, the Zerus have complete control over mankind, and one of the things they're hyper focused on, like eugenics and genetic manipulation. And this story takes place in Europe. They don't allow races and ethnicities to mix. They control the human breeding 100%.
Wow.
But she's from Japan. So how did she get to Europe in this dystopian world where you're not able to do that? And there's also another character in the book that's Mayan. How in the world did he get from South America to Europe? And, so these are, at the end of every issue, I want you asking questions. And I hope, in issue 2 that I answer some of your questions from issue 1 and so on and so forth.
If you don't, I'll be DMing you, Kris. You didn't answer what I had in this issue. I'm really disappointed here.
Right. Yeah, there's each character, the majority of the characters are based off of people that I've known over my life. The main guy here with the red beard, he's based on my buddy Aaron, who he and I grew up together. And the big guy with the shotgun is based on my best friend John. And so it helps because you understand the personalities behind, like when you're writing the characters, like, oh, if they were faced with this decision, this is how they would make it. And it really helps the story kind of write itself in a sense. Doing that.
If you have that one friend you really didn't like, you make him like the weak character that always like he can't aim or anything like that.
You may see some people that you're
there
like,
you go.
You're like, man, I bet he didn't like that guy.
yeah, I love that. That's great. It's like when I was reading Cyberfrog and Ethan Van Sciver put like Bill Clinton in the book, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Right.
That was great. That's good. I like that. Brown says, I asked him about art selection. What do you mean about art selection, Brown? But anyway, the art looks fantastic. That's the first thing I will say. It looks really, because here's the thing. What I always say with an indie book, the art should match the tone of the story, because I've seen so many like books where like the art does not. This does, luckily, because it's gritty. It has that military feel, so it works for this like style selection. That's what he means.
Oh, okay. So my artist Ron Masiki, I can never pronounce his last name. He's a really big like Jim Lee and Liefeld fan.
I can see that.
Yeah. And I had seen some stuff he had done for his book, Sector 7. And I was like, this is the style that I need for this book. And so, I talked to him about it. I sent him the script. And not only did he understand it from the art side, he read the script and he and I just kind of had this synergy. Like he understood the world that I was building, like, this, like even like down to the architecture style of it, and just you ran with it. And I told him from the get-go, I feel like the John Romita Sr. way of doing things is the best way. Of the artist is the final storyteller. So if you understand the world that I've created here, run with it.
Hell, that's how we get characters like the Silver Surfer. People don't realize that the Silver Surfer was not in the original script.
Yeah, and that's that's pretty much how I operate. I mean, even with the colorist, he would hit me and be like, hey, what do you think about the, he gave me a list of styles before he started coloring the book, and of course one of those styles was 90s sci-fi. And I was like, that one right there. And he was like, man, I was really hoping you'd say that. That's
the best, because I'm working on a comic myself. And I have a relationship with my artist where it's like, he'll he'll send me a character design, and it's exactly what I had in my head. That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, that's yeah. When you have a good working relationship with your artist, you're gonna put out a good book, because if they understand the story that is going on in your brain, and they turn it into reality for you, then you're going in the right direction, and they're going to help you along too. They're going to give you they're going to stylize what you've written down, because what you've put down is words. In your brain, you've got pictures, but until that artist really puts it into the physical sphere, that's all it is. And then once you see it, you're like, okay, yeah, we're good, man.
That's why I told him, I was like, hey, listen, I'll give you the script just so you can know what to draw. But if you can figure out a different way to do this in terms of like even like panel layout, or like what goes in each panel, like how everything looks, if you have a better way to do it, feel free.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, I tell them, you take as much freedom as you think is warranted, in that. And, my scripts are, I write them panel by panel, like, page by page, panel by panel, or whatever. But after just how successful he and I worked together on this book, the second script is a little more vague on the details, because I know that he gets the world, and I don't have to be as detailed, and there's even, I think in the third issue, there's literally 2 pages where I literally said several panels of, and then what's going on, because I know that Ron gets what's going on in the world, and he's just it's just a little short action sequence, and I just let him run with it.
It's like 2 people fight, go crazy.
Right.
That's all I need. Just go nuts.
Exactly. Well, and then once I described their powers to him and everything, he thinks of ideas. Oh man, what if they did this? What if they did that? And that's, Akari is the only one. You're not going to see her powers for a while, for a few issues, because essentially she's claustrophobic, and her powers will put her in a claustrophobic situation. So, I wanted something, that would humanize the characters and even make them hesitant to use this, immense power that they have.
That works. I like that. Yeah, because that's always like, I guess, a double-edged sword when it comes to writing characters with powers, because you're like, okay, so this character can like fly and it's basically Superman. Let's have him smash everything. Or you could say he can't, because as he like uses his powers, he gets more vulnerable or something. You put like a weakness on there as well.
Yeah, and that's, like figuring out that balance, like the 2 characters that are alluded to in the first book, you're not going to see them until issue number 5, but they're like destroy the solar system level power.
Oh wow.
But their powers are tied to their emotional state. And so they have to learn not to destroy the solar system on accident.
Don't make them angry. You won't like them when they're angry.
Right. But it's one of those things where they don't necessarily have a weakness, but they do. Their emotional state can be a weakness. I didn't want to do something like, when you're dealing with like nanobots, technology or whatever, people immediately think, oh, well, just hit them with an EMP or whatever, like that's an easy one. That kind of stuff does get addressed, and is it going to work? Maybe. We'll see. Read the story.
That's always been my response to if Batman and Iron Man fought. I'm like, Batman would use an EMP and then beat the crap out of Iron Man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not. And I actually had someone say, "There's no way Batman keeps an EMP in his utility belt." I'm like,
oh, I bet he does.
He's Batman. He's Batman.
If it's not his utility belt, it's in the Batmobile.
Yeah, you can't tell me the dude does not carry an EMP with him. He carries a kryptonite ring with him in the off chance that Superman has a bad day.
Yep. And then he'd just pull out the bat can opener and tear Iron Man open. And
he'd be like, okay, because Iron Man is not as good of a fighter as Batman.
No, not at all.
No, that's going to end really fast. I wish we got that as a movie. That'd be dope.
That would be pretty dope.
They are reprinting a lot of those old Marvel DC crossovers in an omnibus form, so hopefully they have something like that in there.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I remember some of those from back in the day, but I can't. I mean, I remember like there was like a Spider-Man Batman that I liked, but that was so long ago.
There was one when they did the whole Marvel versus DC. I called BS when they had Storm beat Wonder Woman. Shocking her with lightning.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I remember
what?
That. Yeah, like there's no way.
I'm like, if you want to say she's powerful and like she's a better hand-to-hand fighter, she's not. But at least there I could like go, okay, but lightning,
right?
Wonder Woman.
Come on, Storm has one of the best lines in all of comic books. You know what happens to a toad when it gets struck by lightning?
The same thing that happens to everyone else. Oh, God.
Like, oh my gosh, that's almost as bad as around the survivors, a perimeter create.
Or worse, in the Woman show where they look at the bat suit and he goes, it's perfect. It will be when it fits a woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, yeah. There's a degree of when it's just a bad actor, but even the best actor can't make bad writing sound.
Right.
No.
Exactly.
That's like, if you want to see an example of this, watch Batman and Robin.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All you need. I just love that one line where he drops down and Batman goes, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman," and I'm like, "That's how you say it." That's how you say it. No, like, I'm Batman. No,
right?
Just, I'm Batman. Like, what the hell? Just, are you supposed to be intimidating?
Just a couple of bros hanging out on Batman, you know. Schwarzenegger does have one of the best freeze lines ever, though. You know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age.
Yeah. See, that's one of those movies where I have a love-hate relationship with it because it's funny if I want to put something mindless on, but as a Batman fan, it hurts. Particularly, I asked Chuck Dixon about this because I had him on my show, and he was like, I asked him about Bane for obvious reasons, and even he's like, yeah, I wasn't really a big fan of that.
Yep. Oh yeah, I've heard him and Graham talk about like really the only on-screen version of Bane that they like is from the animated series, because they never get him right, and they're right.
Yeah, the thing about it is that Dark Knight got like the tactical mind of Bane pretty well. They just didn't do the actual like Venom drug addict portion of Bane that you kind of need.
Right. Yeah. Well, it gives him, like that's actually part of his drive. Like, one, just being able, like, I do what I say I'm gonna do. But without the Venom, it really takes a lot away from his actual motivation, and you get that if you read the comics, like, but he's been bastardized so much in film that people don't, he's either the Batman and Robin, like mindless, or
smash.
Yeah, he's got this, he's Dark Knight where, he does have that fantastical tactical mind or whatever, but there's that one thing that he's missing, and it's a dimension that Bane has to have.
With me, the problem with the Nolan movies is that first off, the voice got progressively worse, the Batman voice, as it goes on. The first one was fine. Second one started to grate on me. The third one was like, but the third one was so long.
Oh, I know.
It's like it just stops in the middle, and then it's like, okay, so the movie's ending? No, we still got 2 hours left. I'm the dude who has watched the Snyder Cut 15 times, and even I think that's long.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
If a Batman and Robin is a masterpiece compared to the garbage we get today, you know what's kind of funny? He's not wrong.
Right?
Compared to a lot of what they put out today, like I still haven't watched the Marvels. I don't plan to for a while because I hate Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. But I'm just like, compared to that, compared to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, yeah.
Oh my goodness, what a train wreck of a thing. I mean, just MODOK alone, like, what is going on?
First off, the CGI on MODOK looked horrible. If you didn't think you could pull off MODOK, don't use MODOK.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it just I don't understand. Well, I do understand. I personally believe that they just want to ruin all these characters because they hate everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I mean, if that's how you're gonna do, then fine. I'm not gonna give you any money.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, there's a reason why that movie did not do well. So
yeah, exactly.
Or it's like even with like on the DC side, you had like movies like The Flash that had horrible CGI. Okay, like plot. The problem with The Flash is that I don't believe that 80-year-old Michael Keaton can move around like Batman the way he does in that movie. I'm like, no.
Right.
It's cool to see Michael Keaton in the suit again, but it's like they recently came out and said they were going to ask Christian Bale, and I went, that would have been more believable.
Right. You know, yeah. I mean, I think all of us as Batman fans really just wanted a Batman Beyond movie with Keaton in it.
And I love how they came out. They said, okay, so the guys who did the Spider-Verse movies pitched a Batman Beyond animated movie in that style to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers said no.
Yeah, they're not, and that just reinforces my belief that they hate these characters, they hate what they stand for, and they hate the fans because that would sell.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, second Warner Brothers.
There you go. That's my favorite clip. Yeah, because I'm like that. And then their first animated movie that they're going to greenlight in the new universe is Jurassic League, where all of the Justice League are dinosaurs. I'm like, so we couldn't have Batman Beyond, but we could have this,
right? Yeah.
It's and plus I still don't believe that Superman movie is going to come out because I've seen the way Warner Brothers operates. If there's even a hint that's not going to work, they'll pull it.
Yep. I mean, you know, honestly, like at this point, let's just leave it all alone for a decade and come back. Like let us heal.
Or just do single movies.
Yes.
Temporarily take a break from the shared universe and just do single movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's where you got like great movies like Batman Begins at first, Man of Steel. You got a lot of DC's great movies from solo movies. I mean, the Michael Keaton Batman movie, the Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even like if you go back to the early days of these comic books, you know, like sure, Batman and Superman live in the same world, but
they didn't interact at all. It was a big issue when they finally met.
Exactly. Like, you know, it should be a major thing. You know, I mean, even Marvel, where everyone lives in New York. You go back to the early books there, you know, when there was a crossover, it was a big deal, you know.
That's the problem with Marvel having everyone in New York, because you'd expect to see like some heroes in the background doing something, but no.
Yeah, you would totally think that like Spider-Man is fighting Hobgoblin over, you know, on 53rd, and then down on 26th, the Hulk is in a fight with Abomination, and then everyone would be like, I'm not living here anymore. And they would leave.
That's the other thing. I'm like, why does anyone live in Gotham anymore? You got demonic clown, evil Batman. You got a district attorney with half his face burned off.
Right.
You have a gigantic crocodile. The city is taking over. But speaking of events over and over and over again, what they did with the Batman events is like every Batman event involved a different villain taking over Gotham.
Yep.
It's the exact same story over and over again. And I'm like, where have I seen this before? 10 seconds ago.
Yeah. You know, and it's just this villain with their campy antics. And then, next it'll be this villain with their campy antics. It's the same. Yeah, I don't, you know,
but that's the same story.
Yeah, that's the thing. These writers are intellectually bankrupt and they don't know how to write stories. I mean, that's why even in Hollywood, all we're getting is remake after remake after remake. And, you know, when you do get a story that, you know, is new and unique, it's usually, you know, swept under the rug, or, you know, it's labeled like, you know, some political agendas behind it, you know, right-wing political agenda or whatever. You know,
like Top Gun.
Yeah, right. You know, it's like just an action movie.
That's the one occasion where a sequel / remake did extremely well.
Right?
Like, I did not expect that movie to like explode the way it did.
Yeah, me neither, you know, but I mean, it's a fighter jet movie.
That's what you get when you have that was actually a complaint by some journalists. They're like, why didn't they like focus on the more characters of color in the movie? And I'm like, because here's the thing. Yes, there are multiple characters in Top Gun, but it's really a Tom Cruise character movie. It's a Maverick. It's called Top Gun Maverick.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's literally so much truth spoken in the stream. That's what I'd like to do. But on that, I think it's a good place to leave it. Kris, thank you for coming on the show. You're always welcome. So where can we find you?
You can just follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter.
I feel really like uncomfortable posting to X.
Right.
It's a little. I'm like, that's not a good name, Elon.
Yeah, you can follow me at Kris Fraction, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much the best way to find me.
And the link to Nano 13 will be in the description below, so you guys can go pick it up. And yes, see you later, everyone. Stay heroic, and remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lame. I'll see you later. That's kind of my thing.
Nice.